Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. We'll start off with roll call. Sebastian? Nick? Robert? Here. Donna? Here. Mel? Here. And myself, Dale. At this time, I would ask the committee and the members in the public here just to give a moment of silence for a member of this committee. Laverne Gaddy passed away about a week and a half ago, and he was quite a community person and really cared about this committee and the comments that were made at this level. So if we could just take a moment and think about him and his family. Thanks. Okay, thank you. First application.
Yes, through the chair, we have a consent application. It's a B-24:35, 14 and 16 Rossmore Avenue, Hamilton. The applicant is Jay Sterling, the owner is Jay Noble, and the purchasers is S. Mackenzie Pillanini. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak on this application? No, any members of the public first. Okay. Seeing, I don't believe I see any. Is the applicant or agent here? Yes, you want to come to the podium, please? Yes. Sorry, just your name for the record, please?
John Sterling.
George. Sorry, John. Okay. Sterling. And you are the applicant.
Correct.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I've read the comments. I know the city is opposed to this application. And it was tabled once because the Zoom didn't work and I couldn't phone through. Cyber attack. And the phone system it's never run right anyway. But also the owner died around the same time. So we weren't going to do much anyway. Now that it's been through probate, we want to try and revive this project. Now I realize that the lot is not really in a great location. It's by the side of the railway tracks on a siding that leads to the Aberdeen yard. But the comment was that, well, the entire 30 meters that the railway requires is the whole lot. So why bother building on it at all? There was a house on this property in the beginning. It was demolished a long time ago, and the lot sat empty. Jim bought it with the intention of putting in a semi, which is allowed on a single lot in this neighborhood, and to divide it eventually. Now, the reason why we would divide it is because the mortgage on one property with two houses on it would be maybe $1 million plus. But if we divided it, then it would be cut in half and be more affordable. The person who wants to buy the land, Sarah Pillanini, can afford that Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to afford a house at all. We think it's a bit much for the city to oppose this on that grounds. Otherwise, you're just punishing people for being poor, not being able to afford something a bit more expensive. And I don't think that's the intention of this city or this province, although sometimes it's hard to tell. Engineering had no problem with it. Traffic had no problem with it. Archaeology, well, they want to survey the whole site, but again, the only thing they're going to find is a foundation for an old house. Our house won't have a deep foundation. It's only going down 4 feet, and there'll be no basement. So I'm not sure what they'll find, but we're willing to let them try. I know there's conditions on the site. Forestry has conditions. The city has conditions on it. Actually, the site has no trees on it. All the trees belong to other properties. So I don't see, I mean, the semis are being built anyway. So they'll be just the same place, same distance from the railway yard, same pollution content in the air. All we want to make is one affordable. That's it. That's all we want to do. Whether or not you allow the severance to go through, the buildings will still be there. They're still going to go up. So I don't understand why you wouldn't allow the severance anyway. We're not going to, when we're allowed the severance, we're not going to pick up the building and move it over. It's staying exactly where we planned it. So, I don't know, that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any questions for the applicant? Robert?
I went back through the Google Earth pictures back to 2005, and there was no building there, but you can see an old foundation still in the ground,
Yes,
okay? But unfortunately, the proposed lot width does not meet the bylaw of 7.5 meters. Lot area does not meet the bylaw of 225 square meters. And that's not to mention that Metrolinx has some concerns and requirements.
we've already got approval for Metrolinx.
I'm sorry?
We've already got approval for Metrolinx.
Well, it wasn't presented to us.
Well, I don't know who gets it. I have
Okay, well,
the,
that's something you can look at, and yeah. The zoning bylaw requires all buildings or structures within a residential zone or institutional zone be set back a minimum 30 meters from the railway right-of-way. Now, you can turn around and say that the existing house is there, but that's also, I get the term illegal non-conforming, it's been there, so it's okay. But having said that, you throw everything in plus the size of the lot, that's really the application recommended to be denied.
yeah, I realize that, but the semis are going to be built anyway. Because it's allowed, and we've already checked into this before.
It's allowed in one point, but if you look at the other several points, it's not allowed.
We actually almost had our building permit when Jim died,
Well,
and
we can only,
I realize you might not know that, but you can check with the building department. We had all the payments made. The $64,000 for each one was paid.
See, what happens sometimes is some of the bylaws change over time,
Yeah, I realize that, but
and that may be what's happened in
this
this
has
case.
been happening over an historic period of time when you had a pandemic and everything else. Everything was interrupted. And then, of course, you know, the death of the owner of the property, and then everything was interrupted again. There are scads of houses over in that neighborhood that are within the 30 meters of the railway. And I realize that they've been there a long time, probably as old as the railway has been there. But I didn't see the railway buying this land when it became available just so no one could build on it. No, they allowed to sell it to Jim Noble, who wanted to build another house on it. And now you're telling me he can't build a house on it because it's within 30 meters. I mean, that's just insane. Who would buy a property that you can't build on? And by the way, the city has land like that in this. And it's insane that they even do. I mean,
Unfortunately, you know, there's some factors you've mentioned that are not in the application, but we're only as good as what's on the application. That's all we can look at.
I understand.
So at that point, I think I'd like to make a motion to deny the application.
Okay, just before I accept that, I just wonder if there's any more questions from the committee?
I had a question for the city staff. I guess my question's around like the development of the lot and around the semi that's being, I guess, proposed alongside, or maybe after the severance is completed. But I'll just say that there is no severance. There's this lot, and there's an application to essentially build a semi. Is that something that is possible in a lot like this even?
Yes, it is. It is possible.
Well, I'm asking the city staff.
Through the chair, Jennifer Caterino, Area Planning Manager, Development West Team. We would need confirmation from our colleagues in zoning to see what exactly is permitted or what would require variance in this instance. I do think that the 30-meter setback would be a bit of a deterrent or a bit of a hurdle to permit a semi as of right without another Planning Act application here on this property. The one thing that I will say is due to the size of the current lot, if, you know, it's an established lot, if the dwellings had to be located in a certain part to try to accommodate a greater setback or to do some kind of design enhancements to ensure that the rail requirements are met, then it probably would be better to keep it as one lot versus subdividing it before building has been designed to meet those requirements.
So is like the recommendation to like design the building and then come back and see if there's room for a severance at that point? Because for my mind, it goes, if you build a semi, like, why would you keep the lot together? You would want two property owners. I guess I'm just curious to understand what you recommend.
Through the chair, I can't confirm whether or not a semi can actually be accommodated. It may be permitted in the zoning. It may be a permitted use. However, without the additional studies regarding noise and vibration for the train tracks, it's hard for us to say that. And to the point, I understand that when there's a semi, oftentimes people do want to sever it and own opposite, like each unit be owned independently. However, it doesn't always have to be the case. The second unit can also be rented. It can function like an additional dwelling unit on a property. If that happens, then there's also additional opportunity for amenity space to be shared on the property versus one side of a semi having hardly any amenity space in the rear and another unit having more of that open space or that space that's going to accommodate any mitigation measures for the train tracks. So this one is a bit complicated in our opinion.
Can I add something?
Just a minute. Nick, did you have a?
Just two questions here, or actually one. So I'm looking at a picture here of the proposal. Just wondering, and I tried to look on the web, but couldn't quite get what I was looking for. What's on the lot right now? The 16 and 14, those two lots are side by side, and then the one that you'd like to sever is,
No, one would be 14 and one would be 16.
Okay, what's there right now?
Nothing. A foundation from an old house.
Nothing. Okay, so, so what's the goal then? To build 2 houses or 3?
Well, it's cheaper to build 2 houses and sell one. It is cheaper, and the houses would go at a lower price.
Can we just circle back to the question though? Is the goal to build 2 or 3 houses?
2.
Okay. Just a quick comment I'd like to make as well, if I could. There's really only one department here saying that they disagree with this. The rest are okay with it? The rest are
Have no
neutral?
comments.
Yeah, the rest don't have negative comments to make about it. So the only department that does is development planning. And that's all I'd like to say about that.
Okay,
I just have one more thing to just recommend, and I think you're approaching this in the wrong order. In my opinion, like, once you had that house designed and approved, then
Okay.
asking for a severance would probably be make a lot more sense to me, because we don't even know what kind of home you can build on this lot yet.
Okay, so the plans have been, we've actually already applied, and the plans aren't going to change. They're 2 square blocks. You guys were given the site plan. I handed it in with the rest of my application, so you should know what the houses look like. There's no excuse not to. We minimized everything we could. We cannot move them. We cannot change them. One has a rear yard, one has a side yard for amenity areas. It's just the way it is, because it's a triangular lot. Now, I realize that we could look at and try and redesign it, but that's not going to happen because it's already been designed. It was designed 3 years ago. And there's no other way to design them. And the semi's going up. So to deny the severance, I don't know, it just eliminates the possibility of home ownership for somebody who can't afford a bigger house on a bigger lot.
I understand what you're saying, but that's not what's presented in front of us. What's presented in front of us is a land severance application.
Yes.
Your designs, from my understanding through the conversations we just had with the staff, is that we don't know whether or not it's being approved. We don't know what else there is to kind of deal with that portion of it. So like I said, this is asking for a severance first when we don't know what's going to be built there and it hasn't been presented to us. What's the plan for that?
I realize it,
Yeah.
and then that wasn't my idea. My idea was to wait until the houses were built and then apply for the severance. They didn't want to do that for obvious reasons. Money. If I was going to pay the fees for a new lot, I'd have to come up with $64,000. And then I'd have to come up with another $64,000 once it was severed. And then I'd have to ask someone to buy it and pay the money back to me. So why bother? Why not just build it as a semi? And this was their idea, not mine. So they could save themselves the development charges on one of the lots.
okay, Robert?
I just did a quick study on the Google Earth and measured off 30 meters for the setback from the tracks, not from the property line, but from the center of the tracks. And it ends up in the middle of the existing house. So basically, the entire proposed severance would be within the 30-meter range. And as staff mentioned, you've got the vibration and the noise from the trains. Yes, there's a house there already, but at the same token, this is going forward. So,
Yeah, but we don't mind making accommodations for the noise study.
it's,
Basically, it's insulation.
Okay, I'm going to accept, Robert made a motion for denial. Is there a seconder? Mel? All in favor? Opposed? One opposed? Okay, motion is carried, application is denied.
I think you're making a mistake.
Okay, moving on, we have a minor variance application. It is A25084, 56 York Boulevard, Hamilton. Agent is Web Planning Consultants. Applicant is Core Urban Incorporated. Owner is 56YB Corporation. Is there any members of the public who wish to speak on this application? Okay, seeing none, I'll ask the applicant or agent, please step forward.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. If I could please beg for some assistance and call up the presentation. For the record, James Webb, professional planning consultant based here in Hamilton, and speaking to you today on behalf of the current owners and Core Urban Inc., who are about to take title of this property.
Through the chair, planning staff, development planning staff are requesting to speak first on this application. Over to the planning staff.
Through the chair, to President, I suppose. Apologies, there was a formatting error in staff comments, or my comments specifically, that led to a factual error in the stated zoning. The comments currently state the land zoned low density R1 zone and references a existing single detached dwelling. The correct zoning is the D1 zone with the standard H17, 19, and 20 holdings for the downtown zones, and the proposed multiple dwelling and hotel use would be permitted uses.
Okay.
Thank you. And I'm just going to load up the presentation now.
If you're not familiar with Core Urban Inc., they are a Hamilton-based company. Their specialty and their focus is developing just within the downtown of the city of Hamilton and have completed a significant number of transformative projects. So, Justin, I assume you're going to help me with advancing the slides?
Yeah.
So on the next slide, please. These are examples of properties on King William Street. This is the former, what's called Templar Flats. Again, former derelict buildings acquired by Core Urban, renovated, additions, heritage buildings, no parking. Next slide. Just, this is actually at the corner of King William and James Street. This building is now known as the King James Building. Same example, former heritage building, derelict, acquired by Core Urban Inc., rejuvenated, floor area additions to the building, no existing parking on the property, and no additional parking was provided. The matter before you today is the Copley Building. I'm sure you're familiar with this, located on York Boulevard at the corner of McNabb Street. Phenomenal history, legacy building, has been vacant since the Copley Corporation relocated to a new premises. The lands have now been acquired by Core Urban Inc. and are proposed for development as the two buildings. The westerly building is proposed to be the new home for the Hamilton Community Foundation on the main floor and 36 apartment units on the upper story. The westerly building, which is in this image before you, is proposed as a hotel. And this is the cause for the variances before you today. Outlined in that red bubble, you're going to see what I'll refer to as a gap tooth. There was a section of the building at the upper story that was not finished, completed at the outset. And that is the proposal before the committee today that actually triggers the variances, because that's regarded as new floor area. Everything else about the building that's occurring within the shell of the existing building is essentially grandfathered, fully compliant with the zoning bylaw. But this new floor area does trigger the requirement to fully comply with the zoning bylaw. Next slide, please. This is an image of the proposal. So what you see is that former gap tooth, that missing piece of upper story facade, is proposed to be replaced with a sympathetically designed and articulated heritage mimicking facade that adds 7 additional hotel units to the building, an additional floor area as well. But you can see from this slide, again, I'm trying to keep my comments brief, there's a significant amount of work going into this building. The next slide shows the facade along York Boulevard. Again, Both buildings are seeing significant renovations in order to accommodate their new uses. The former breezeway between the two buildings now becomes the accessibility entrance to the building. That's where we're going to have our barrier-free entrances. There's new elevators being provided such that the building is fully AODA compliant. Quickly on the next slide, this is a summary of what Core Urban Inc. is taking on in terms of the renovations. They are fully updating the facades of the buildings, new mechanical elements. Windows are going to be replaced with proper heritage replica windows. The roof gets replaced with a slate tile, details clad in copper, and projecting cables to be retained. So appreciate that this is a very significant undertaking and initiative by Core Urban Inc., such that they can relaunch this building and put it back into productive use and make it a landmark within the downtown. To get there, next slide, please, 3 connected planning approvals. We need a heritage permit. This went to the Heritage Committee back in April, and I can tell you that the meeting was joyful in its tone because the Heritage Committee members in approving the permit were absolutely thrilled to see someone investing in a downtown property and bringing it back into its life. We have obtained site plan approval, conditional site plan approval, and presently working through satisfying conditions. And lastly, we do need variances. To add that additional floor area that I showed you, bold in red, means that we otherwise would need 4 additional parking spaces, 1 barrier-free parking space, and there's a conflict with a requirement that requires a step back at that height. There's no dispute with respect to the variances as it relates to the parking supply and the step back. The issue is with respect to the inability of this project to provide the barrier-free spaces. Next slide. In bullet form, I mean, these are what I regard as the key and fundamental considerations that support this application. The first point, and I'll stress it, I'm going to come back to this. Because of the nature of this site, the site coverage is essentially at 100%. There is no practical alternative because of existing physical site constraints. We have no ability to provide parking on this site. As part of the conditional site plan approval, we've agreed to upgrade the McNabb Street frontage such that what currently metered parking will in fact become a dedicated loading zone for the hotel entrance, and we will have dedicated signage as part of that in order to impose parking restrictions. The hotel operator will ultimately run some form of a valet service for the benefit of their clients and customers. We have immediate proximity. That slide that I showed you before of the building shows you how close we are to an existing parking facility. That's the current municipal parking facility, and within that building there are 17 barrier-free parking spaces. There's precedent. On the right-hand side, this is how the City of Hamilton addressed accessibility issues with respect to the farmers market. You can't really read it, but that sign above the hood of the car reads, parking restricted for wheelchair unloaded only. We're going to do the same thing in front of our site. So that's precedent. So these are all the measures that we are proposing so as to mitigate the inability to provide that additional parking space. And, you know, I love the 4th test under the Planning Act. It's a test of desirability. This opportunity, this project before you today will see the significant opportunity to reuse a designated heritage building, refurbishment of a significant downtown icon, and a building. The building will be fully AOD compliant for the first time in its history. Staff don't support the variance with respect to accessibility, and we're in disagreement on that with respect to how they arrived at that point. Staff have taken a view that the building is not AOD compliant because of our inability to provide that parking space. If you drill into the language of that act, you find that there is an exception that explicitly applies to this circumstance. Paragraph 80-38, next slide, please.
I don't believe there's any more slides.
Oh, you're right. This is my printed only. I didn't put this one into a slide. Section 80.38 of the AODA explicitly states an exception to the required minimum number of parking spaces for the use of persons with disabilities may be permitted where an obligated organization can demonstrate that it's not practical to comply with the requirement because of either physical or site constraints. And that's our circumstance here. So that's the act that gives us an out, that says you, in certain circumstances, there will be opportunity where you can't comply. And that's our circumstance. Staff also referenced official plan policies. It's the barrier-free section of the UHOP. And they relied on this statement to say that it didn't comply, but the key wording, and if you look at page 2 of your staff report, it's very clear. The policies state that the required barrier-free design on private sector sites or buildings shall be achieved wherever possible. That qualifier is put in there very clearly with that intent, and it perfectly aligns with what the Act says in terms of those instances where it may not be achievable. So the official plan recognizes that circumstance, the Act recognizes that circumstance, and the Committee of Adjustment becomes our forum to come before you and seek relief from that requirement. I apologize, Mr. Chairman, it's a very long-winded presentation, but it's a significant project. We see it as a great opportunity for the city, and this small addition that triggers the variances is important to the developer, to them to launch this project. So with that, I'd take any questions.
Okay, looks like a great project, for sure, for the city of Hamilton. Questions? Committee? Robert?
What is the procedure for identifying street parking as barrier-free parking?
Through the chair, if I may, we've been working with city transportation planning staff through the conditions of site plan approval. We're paying for the removal of existing metered parking and reestablishment of new signage. That's one of our conditions of site plan approval.
Okay. Anyone else? No, is there a motion?
Before we get to the motion, I just want to say that I had down here to, approve variance 1 and 2 and deny variance 3 based on what we saw. And I looked at the site plan, and there is not a snowball's chance you can get one dedicated parking spot on the property. After hearing your presentation on that, that solves the barrier-free. It's not the best option, but right now I think it's the only option going forward to make this happen. So I make a motion to approve it with the approve variance 1 and 2, but still deny variance 3 with a condition, as the applicant said, involving the city's transportation department, as he says they've been working on, to have it on the road.
Well, I'm just wondering, so on variance 3, they are going to provide a spot.
Okay, I was thinking specifically to the site plan itself.
If I may, through the chair,
yeah.
I'm not sure that necessarily solves the problem, because the regulation that we're dealing with isn't necessarily on-street parking provisions, which we are achieving, that the zoning conflict is as it relates to the ability to provide parking on site. So we do need that last variance not to be denied, but to be approved, to
Okay,
recognize no barrier-free parking.
then approve all variances then.
Okay, is there a seconder? Nick? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none? Motion carried, application approved.
Thank you very much.
Apologies through the chair. Was it Sebastian? Did you second? Were you the second? Oh, Nick, sorry. Just for my records. Thank you. Okay. Next, we have a minor variance application, A25083, 1040 Garner Road West, Unit C106, Ancaster. And the agent is L. Ferguson and the owner is T. Ho. And I believe with this application, the applicant has withdrawn their application. It's been determined that a minor variance is no longer necessary here. Okay, moving on. We have a minor variance application, A25085, 29 Wiltshire Place, Ancaster. And the agent is A. Drastra Constructing Incorporated, and the owner is L. Cahill and E. H. Chabe. Apologies if I mispronounce your names. Let me just take a look. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak on this application? Okay. Seeing none, could the applicant or agent please step forward? Applicant or agent? Agent is D. Drastra. or the owner.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
My name is Darren Dreister, and I'm the agent for 29 Wiltshire Place. I'm just here for any questions that the committee may have.
Okay, did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
Yes.
Okay, and so does the committee have any questions on this application? Mel?
After seeing that the committee is 100% in favor, or the planning, now I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, is there a seconder? Nick, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion carried, application approved.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
And just through the chair, there was in the staff report the recommendation to revise the wording for variance number 1. So just recognizing the approval reflects that. Okay. Next, we have a minor variance application. A25018, 429 Annalee Drive, Ancaster. The owner is J. Pablo and J. Bastida. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak on this application? Okay. Seeing none, I'll ask the applicant or agent, please step forward.
Hey, how are you, everybody? Thank you. I've been here for the last one, and with a lot of work with the planners, we've revised some of our plans to make sure that they were in favor and confident with what we're doing. You know, we're taking a lot of consideration, a lot of their feedback, and applied it directly into the plan. So I'm hoping that with that consideration, we can approve our variance and move forward with our pool.
And apologies, could you identify yourself, please?
Yes, sorry. So just for clarification, it says J. Pablo. My name is Juan Pablo Bastida. My wife is Jessica Bastida. So it's J.P. Bastida and J. Bastida, just for clarification.
Thank you.
Okay, does the committee have any questions? If not, is there a motion? Robert?
I'd give it a motion to approve variances 1 and 2 with the conditions and the notes included.
Okay, is there a seconder? Donna? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion carried, application
Thank you
approved.
so much.
Okay, moving on, we have the minor variance application A-25025, 856 Concession 5 West, Flamborough. The owner is S. Butler and S. Lemaine. And is there any members of the public here to speak on this application? Okay. Seeing none, I'll ask the applicant or agent, please step forward.
Hi there.
Yes, welcome to our meeting. Did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
Yes, I did.
Okay, do you have any questions?
Yes, actually. So just, I guess, clarification, or I'm a bit confused. So one of the proposed conditions had stated a stage 1 archaeological assessment. And then on page 7, the comments page, point 4, it had stated that, or sorry, that was for the conservation, sorry. The page 5 states that it does not require an archaeological assessment. So I'm just confused. I also don't know what that is. When this house was purchased a while ago, there's a big, long backstory behind it. Essentially, what I'm trying to get at is I don't understand why it would be required, because they had already brought in a bunch of illegal fill before we took possession of the property. And so there's 8 foot from the road line and then 5.5 feet from the rear lot line. And so, you know, the frost line is generally 1.2 meters. So essentially, I'm just confused why we need that condition, I guess, is the point of all of this.
Okay, I don't know whether that's a question for planning or not.
Through the chair to the applicant, the condition requiring the stage 1 archaeology assessment was a condition added at the request of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. The applicant is correct that archaeology or cultural heritage staff, the city staff, did not request the study as a condition. They do recommend adding in acknowledgement note or a cautionary note that if anything is found, for example, then follow these steps, essentially. Anything more regarding the stage 1 assessment required by the First Nation, I could not comment further on that.
Okay. I'm just wondering, can we make that condition a note rather than a strict condition? I think we've done that before, other times, but. Is the committee okay with that, or make a motion towards that effect?
Yeah.
If there's no more questions. Al?
Yeah, I'll make a proof of this with a note if they find anything that has to be looked after. So I'll make approval of it.
And that's completely understandable and obviously totally fine with us. I just didn't want it to be, you know, obviously something that's going to delay the project if possible.
Right. So that's a motion by Mauser, seconder. Nick, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Seeing none, motion carried, application approved.
And sorry, so through the chair, that's a motion to approve with the conditions, but excluding the stage 1 archaeological assessment. Is that correct? And Ms. Butler, I believe you're the owner, is that correct? You the applicant or the?
Yes, correct.
And just a note for you as well, if you have any questions about any information in the staff report, please contact staff prior to the hearing, and we can assist you and we can look into it as well. All right? Thank you.
Okay, I apologize.
Okay, just a note for you. Thank you. All right. Moving forward, moving on, we have a minor variance application. It is A24276, 1192 Concession 4 West, Flamborough. Agent is E. Hart. Owner is W. Van Hoysted. I apologize if I mispronounce it. And D. Van Hoysted, and then E. Hart and R. Hart. Is there any members of the public who wish to speak on this application? No. Okay, seeing none, I'll ask the applicant or agent, please step forward. Hi.
Hello,
Yes.
Hi.
Welcome to our meeting.
I'm Donna Van Husted, and I'm part owner of this property at 1192 Concession 4 West. And actually, our question is very similar to the previous applicant about the archaeology assessment. We had a hearing in February, and it was tabled because of some other issues. But now that has come out as a proposed condition. When I looked up the what it actually seems to be, it's where a proposed development is taking place on the property. And in our case, we're talking about a garden suite that is here on property. There's no digging involved. So we were just wondering why that was added since the last hearing.
Through the chair, I just want to know, I believe development planning staff has something to raise in relation to the application.
Sorry, I'm not understanding what you mean.
Sorry, just one of the planning staff, I think they have something just to add in relation to the application. So let's just see if they have something to, yeah.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay, sorry.
Through the chair to, again, all present, staff just want to note that of the conditions that are listed as proposed conditions, there appears to be one that was not included from source protection planning's comments. There was a condition regarding, and I quote, to the satisfaction of the Director of Hamilton Water, source protection planning will require a scoped hydrogeological assessment by a qualified person focused on the applicant's water supply to support the private servicing of the property. And there's a following details on technical requirements and such. Staff would recommend that this condition be included as a potential third condition or a second condition. Our discussions with source protection planning staff were only able to secure their support for approval for this application on the basis of not only limiting the potential size of the unit based on condition 1, but also on requiring the scoped hydrogeological study. Hydrogeological, sorry.
And through the chair, just to follow up on the question from the applicant regarding the First Nations condition. So I can't confirm exactly when we started, but the city of Hamilton has recently been in conversations with our local First Nations to engage in Planning Act applications. And as a result of that, all new, or as of a date, which I don't have at the top of my head, we have circulated all applications to the First Nations. So we have been seeing new comments and conditions such as this one being applied to applications that had been previously presented to the committee. So this condition is a reflection of that. This is the first time the Mississaugas First Nation has seen the application, so hence their comment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And
so-
just one other comment, if I could. Under the building section, it says it's still looking for the drawings and plans for this unit that is already here. But further on in the application, it does again explain that it is a garden suite. So it is clarified throughout all the documentation, but it just stood out that it still fell under that one section under planning or under building. But yes, now I understand the First Nation thing. We figured it was something new, and have no problem with the first condition about the size of the unit. And we are doing follow-up currently on that source protection water thing. So thank you.
Okay, so we're just dealing with the two conditions that are in place and whether we really need the second one, the archaeological.
I have an issue with condition number 2, and I respect the First Nations and the archaeological and all that, but technically there is no digging being done on this. They're just declaring the granny house, or whatever you want to call it, through that, and that's where it's the first condition, the maximum size, the additional dwelling unit. Well, it's existing. The existing unit also has its own septic system.
Mm-hmm.
So each home has their own septic system.
Yeah.
So if I'm reading this correctly, the whole application is just to make things legal, declaring that as an additional dwelling,
Yes.
as is. So A, there's no digging. It has its own septic system. Somebody's been living there. So I'm not sure the source water is a factor in all this. So on that, I would make a motion to approve the application with condition 1, but stroke number 2.
And would just sorry through the chair, would there be the condition as well for the hydrogeological assessment as well from source water protection?
Yeah, well, if you look back on the comments of source water, bring this up here. Oop. Where did we go? Maybe somebody's finding it faster than I am.
It's on the top of page 5.
Page 5. Yeah, they recommend, or not recommend, but they realize the issue, but they don't require yeah. It's an existing situation, so it's not, they're not putting that into the conditions.
No, I realize that.
But they asked to put it in. That's why I was going to ask the question before we do a motion.
So we need a variance from 1.5 to 1.2 hectares? Okay, we'll add that variance. well, it covers the entire package that way. And she's good to go.
So through the chair, the garden suite was placed on the property through different mechanisms, and the certain checks weren't completed that we do now for lot size and lot configuration and all that in the rural area. Since the garden suite had been there for a long time and there hasn't been any problems, we've worked with the applicants to scope the requirements from a source water perspective, because once the variance is approved, in theory, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but in theory, an ADU would be permitted on that property as of right. So in, if in 10 years or 15 years, if the property is ever sold and somebody wants to remove the garden suite and build another additional dwelling unit, this condition from source water protection is essentially ensuring that the lot is an adequate size to support a secondary dwelling unit or an additional dwelling unit on the site. It's just, in this particular instance, there's already one there. So, and we know it functions. And so we know, we don't anticipate any problems, and the applicants have already agreed to do the scoped hydrogeological work that Source Water has requested. So we don't anticipate there being a problem, but this is really just future protection for the lot size moving forward, because if committee decides to approve this, an additional dwelling unit would be permitted as of right on the property. So, somebody could come do it. Another one, hence development and development planning's condition to limit the size. So that was another kind of fail-safe for if in the future, and if that's on record, if we limit the size, if somebody does want to build another one on the property, they can relocate it on the site, but it still can only be a certain size. So just some background on that piece.
Ends up being an additional cost. But, Robert, did you?
No, Donna's got a comment.
Donna?
Yes.
I'm still getting it in there.
Okay. So they're requesting, Source Water is requesting this in case down the road there is, the garden suite maybe might get taken down and they've already been okayed for an additional dwelling unit. But in my opinion, there'd have to be a permit issued to build something bigger, and wouldn't at that time trigger Source Water. No? Okay.
No, through the chair, once it's permitted in the zoning there, and there is no site plan control that is applied to the property, there really wouldn't be a trigger for Source Water to review the application again. It would just be an application for the additional dwelling unit and the septic, and a new septic system at that point in time. So this really is our opportunity to get that check done.
Again, so it's up to the committee. That's why we're here.
So we go back and add the one variance as requested, so 1.5 to 1.2. Size for the lot.
It's,
And then add source water as a condition. Is that, am I reading that right?
I'm confused about the variance that you're adding. From my understanding, we just.
The restrict, for the property for a hectare for source water is 1.5. This lot is only 1.2. So it does not meet the bylaw.
So the condition that they will accept this is, one is the size of the property, and two would be the source water for them to approve this.
Well, is it the
That's
source
what I'm
water a
reading.
variance or a condition?
No, it's a condition.
Yeah. No, I know about
Yeah.
that,
Oh, okay.
but that wasn't the question.
Oh,
Through the chair to the committee member, the variance as is to decrease the required lot size to 1.2 hectares. It's just the scoped hydrogeological study that was a condition by source water staff was not included in the proposed conditions at the top of staff comments. The condition that development planning staff recommended, the limit the 3 bedrooms and 140 square meters. That addresses potential issues about kind of demand on private servicing by limiting the size and number of bedrooms. But the condition that source water staff are looking for, that scoped hydrological study, they're requesting that to address essentially the private water supply. So they're requesting that testing to demonstrate that the private water supply can support the existing, at this point it was a garden suite, or any future potential 3-bedroom ADU.
You know, sometimes it gets confusing because, you know, we're dealing with something that's there right now, and then we're also asked to deal with something that could happen in the future, which may never happen in the future, but, Nick?
So I guess the core issue we're looking at here is, I mean, it looks like an approvable application with some conditions, right? Are the basic core issue, we're looking at whether it's going to be studied in terms of its water. Oh, it's okay. If you want to censor me, I get it. I'm kidding. It's based on 0.3 meters, am I right? That's what we're sort of, that's no problem. That's good to hear. So is it possibly about a condition about studying the water? Is that what we're looking at?
I think that's what we're looking at, and
Okay.
I don't know the exact cost, but I know it can get quite costly for doing these scopes, but.
Does anyone know?
It is quite expensive.
I think if you're looking at protecting, obviously, like future landowners, you know, the applicant was compliant with it. Like, I don't see why we're not just approving the variance and with the first condition, removing the second one, and then adding in this hydrogeological study. And that's it.
Just, yeah.
But why do we need the now, the hydrological study is the water source?
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to make it clear?
Okay.
That was more proposed, I believe, for if 10 years from now, somebody else is here who doesn't want to leave the garden suite. But it did not come up sort of with just the garden suite because how long it's been on the property with no issues with water ever.
Okay, I'm gonna put forward a motion to approve the application with condition 1, removing condition number 2, and then adding in the condition for the scoped hydrogeological assessment.
Okay, is there a seconder? Donna, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion carried, application approved
Thank you.
with the addition.
Thank you. Moving on, we have a consent application. It is B25031, 555 and 559 Sanatorium Road, Hamilton. Agent is Weston Consulting, and I know I'm going to mispronounce his name, so I apologize in advance. M. Kwarkopomi. And the owner is a numbered company, 2358574 Ontario Limited, H. Hakimi. Is there any members of the public who wish to speak on this application? Okay, seeing none, I'll ask the applicant or agent, please step forward.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Ian Mayo. I'm a planner at Weston Consulting. With me on the line today is Mark Swarkapome, partner and planning lead at Weston. We're here representing Elite Developments, the owner of the lands located at 555 to 559 Sanatorium Road. We do have a brief presentation for our severance application, should the committee wish to see it.
Okay,
Just give me a moment.
did you have a chance to read all the comments that were posted?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
And Justin, will you be pulling that presentation up? I can also share.
Doing it right now. Yeah.
Yep, we're working on it.
At this point, reviewing the application and everything with it, make a proposal to approve the severance with the listed 9 conditions.
Sorry, through the chair, I think the agent has a presentation.
Oh,
they
sorry.
wanted to show. Sorry. Sorry, agent, go ahead.
Thank you. So as mentioned, the lands in question are municipally addressed as 555 to 559 Sanatorium Road. We submitted a consent application for severance on April 8th. I'd like to just provide some brief context both for the application and the subject lands. I'll just run through that quickly. Next slide, please. So the subject lands are located in the southwest corner of the Sanatorium Road and Redfern Avenue intersection. They have an approximate area of 5.02 acres, which is just over 20,000 square meters, and a frontage of approximately 167.26 meters along Sanatorium Road. The lands are designated institutional by the Hamilton Urban Official Plan and are zoned I3 institutional by zoning bylaw 05-200. Next slide, please. So the purpose of this consent application is to sever the lands to create 2 lots as shown on the severance plan on screen. The development of each parcel is being contemplated through separate site plan approval applications and does not form part of this application. The line of severance follows an existing driveway that bisects the property Southern Lane to create logically split parcels. The lands to be retained is proposed to comprise of 7,488 square meters with a frontage of 112.977 meters and will contain an existing 1-story medical building and a parking structure which will replace an existing 3-story vacant building. The preparation of a site plan application to permit the development of the parking structure is underway and is anticipated for submission in the next month. The lands to be severed comprise of 12,770.79 square meters with a frontage of 54.279 meters and are currently vacant. Site plan application DA-22-142 applying to the proposed 6-story residential building and 6-story retirement building was conditionally approved on May 17, 2023. Weston is currently working to satisfy those conditions and is anticipating a resubmission by the end of June. Last slide. So we just want to acknowledge, just kind of in response to some of the conditions that were received, that the reciprocal access easement will be required to ensure that both parcels are appropriately accessible and serviced. The specific alignment and registration of that easement will occur through the SPA review process. Public notices were posted on May 15th to satisfy Planning Act requirements. And we also just want to note, as I said there, that we have reviewed the conditions proposed through the staff report. We see no issues in terms of our ability to satisfy them. So thanks very much for listening. Happy to answer any questions should there be any.
Okay. Does the committee have any questions? Robert?
Make a motion to approve,
Okay.
including the 9 conditions and the proposed notes.
Okay, seconded by Mal. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Seeing none, motion carried, application approved.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, we have a minor variance application. It is a okay, it was A25011 49 Upper Lake Avenue, Stony Creek. Agent is M. Sabelli and owner is S. Wachiniuk. Is there any members of the public who wish to speak on this application? Okay, seeing none, I'll ask the applicant or agent to please step forward.
Yes, hello. My name is Michael Sabelli. I'm the agent, and I have the owner on my landline if there are any questions that I can't answer.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you had a chance to read all the comments that were posted.
Yes, sir, and I have a question with respect to number 2, with respect to the tree protection plan. This was tabled once before because of some confusion, but it's all been cleared. Someone from staff, according to the owner, was at the site and acknowledged that there are no trees on the subject property. With respect to the adjacent property, there is one small branch that may be trimmed to accommodate this. Other than that, there are no effects on any trees. So we're just asking if allowable, to remove condition number 2.
Okay. We'll maybe ask planning if,
Yeah, good afternoon. Spencer Skidmore, Area Planning Manager. So my colleague Anthony, who's not here today, did a site visit, and I believe he did note there's a large tree that's to the rear, and there's, I think, several large limbs that overhang the existing garage that if there was a second story, they'd have to do some significant pruning. So I think that was acknowledged by our natural heritage staff who provide comments on tree protection plans, and that's what triggered the condition in the comments. Granted, yeah, it's a fairly, I would say, minor instance of an impact on the tree, so I'll just leave that up to committee's consideration. Thank you.
okay. Committee? Any questions? And your ideas on number 2? Mel?
I'll make a motion to approve variance number 1 and delete variance tree, the tree protection.
Okay, is there a seconder? Nick, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion carried, application approved.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And moving on, we have a minor variance application, A25026-505 Glover Road, Stony Creek. The agent is S. Morrow and the owner is M. Manilovic. Is there any members of the public who wish to speak on this application? Okay, seeing none, I'll ask the applicant or agent, please step forward. I believe I saw him on the WebEx portal. Was it S. Morrow? Or M. Manilovic, are you there? You can unmute yourself, please. Okay. Yeah, through the chair, M. Manilovic is on the WebEx portal. I requested them to unmute. If we want, we could maybe move forward with the other applications and just return to this one. We'll see if we can get in touch with them, see if they can come back to the portal. Okay, let's move on then. Next is a consent application. B25030, 39 Norwich Road, Stony Creek. Agent is J. DeFilippis, and the owner is a numbered company, 2621929 Ontario Limited. Is there any members of the public who wish to speak on this application? Okay, seeing none, I'll ask the applicant or agent to please step forward.
Hi, Joseph DeFilippis of DeFilippis Design, representing the owner of 39 Norwich.
Okay, welcome to our meeting. Did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
I did, and I would like to discuss one of the proposed conditions for a noise study. I understand, I did speak to the planner after the comments came out. I understand that it's in the official plan and that a noise study is required to determine if there are noise impacts from major arterial roads on the lands. And so I understand that that's there. So those noise studies are required for lands within 400 meters of a major arterial road. These lands happen to be 300 meters from Highway 8, which is one of those major arterial roads. In this case, I just would like the committee, the planner said that, the comments were not going to be changed and to ask the committee consider removing this condition. This from my standpoint and a common sense standpoint, This is there's a current semi-detached dwelling that's under construction. The intent here is that the lands get severed so that they can have independent ownership. To be able to do this application is not going to really change the built form. So to be able to actually do noise mitigation, if it's required or if it even makes sense, it seems like it would be kind of a difficult task at this point.
Committee? Robert?
Anybody else have any questions on this one? Okay. I make a proposal to approve the variances and exclude number 5, the noise study in the conditions, and to include any notes.
Okay, is there a seconder? Nick? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion carried, application approved.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we have a minor variance application A25053, 25 West Avenue, Stony Creek. Applicant is C. Hudson and the owner is L and A. Tittarelli. And yes, through the chair, just letting you know that the applicant requested to table the application just prior to the hearing. So it will not be heard today. And we still, I guess we'll return to the previous application. It was A25026, 505 Glover Road, Stony Creek. And the agent S. Morrow and the owner is M. Manilovic. Are you there? I think I believe we were trying to contact them to see if they could connect. Okay, maybe we'll have to wait. Through the chair, as you may be aware, we can proceed without the applicant or agent present to hear the application, but that would be up to you. But we're going to still try to contact them and see if they can connect.
Okay. Has he tried to call in or?
I see the owner on the WebEx portal, and I requested them to unmute, but they didn't respond. And I believe one of the staff here, we tried emailing them as well. So yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. There may be a technical issue there. Yeah.
So what we're saying is that we can vote on this application without them being present?
Through the chair, that is correct. If they're not here, if you wanted to, you could proceed to hear the application. Yes.
Because looking at the application, it's pretty cut and dry, in my opinion, that it be approved.
There's only one condition, right?
Yeah.
Is that your motion?
I'll make the motion. I'll make a motion to approve this application with the condition.
Okay, moved by Mel, seconded by Nick. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion carried, application approved.
Thank you, and we'll inform the applicant or agent after the hearing of that. And as I did notify the committee prior to the hearing today, we're going to be moving forward. We're going to have a new business kind of section at the end of the hearing. So if there's anything staff wishes to bring to the attention of the committee, we'll let you know. Or if the committee, if you have anything you wish to bring to the attention to the other committee members as well, you can do it here. I'm just going to check if my manager has any updates.
Hi, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Emily Coe. I'm the manager of Zoning and Committee of Adjustment. Justin, before I start, do you have any OLT updates?
No, not at this time, no.
Not this time, okay. So I just have two items to address today. So the first being Bill 17, which is a bill that the province is proposing to bring forward. Actually, they're going to be bringing it forward this afternoon, from what I'm told. But one of the parts of that bill is that they are looking to permit minor variances as of right. So if a setback is, for example, within 10% of what the bylaw requires, they're not going to require applicants to come forward for a minor variance. So that may cut down on some of the applications that we're seeing here at the committee. So we'll see how that pans out. And the second was that at our council meeting yesterday, one of our councillors did bring forward a motion to fill the vacancy on the Committee of Adjustment. So we should be hearing about that once the selection committee goes through its process.
Yes, through the chair, yes, I know you raised it. I was going to raise it at the end of the hearing too, and regarding member Laverne Getty, and that he passed away. And I just wanted, on behalf of the city, just extend condolences to his family, and just recognize the service that his service to the city as well through the committee. And as my managers indicated, yeah, there is a process has now been started to fill that vacancy. Okay, was there anything else?
So will be posted or whatever for applicants to apply, or, okay. I didn't know whether they go back to who had previously applied or whether they just open it up for new applications.
The motion that was brought forward by the councillor, if you just give me 1 second, I can pull it up. So it says the motion requests that the selection committee for agencies, boards, and subcommittees be requested to fill the citizen appointee vacancy on the Committee of Adjustment. So I'm not sure if that means that they'll go back into that pool from when this committee was selected. We can certainly find that out for you. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, is there a motion for adjournment? Mel, seconded by Donna, all in favor, of course. And our next meeting?
Okay, so through the chair, we adjourn now at 2:31 p.m. And I believe tentatively our next hearing is on June 19th.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, everyone.